Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Sunday, April 26th. This is episode number 345. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my brother, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how are things going?
Good, Rod. Once again, we're winning the off season.
Yeah. That is why we are gathered here today. I guess,
Yeah.
A couple ways to look at it. I guess first of all, Browns off-season champs for two seasons in a row. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
So that's good. Second, I mean, a lot of people, myself included, and I'm assuming you're in the same thing. As we're going to go through all this, but I guess hats off to Andrew Berry. We got to give him a hand. My sound. There we go. There's the sound effects.
Yeah,
All
okay,
right.
I was waiting for it. Nice.
Yeah, it didn't work the first time. So, yeah, I don't use the sound effects too often.
It's a low budget show.
It's low budget. We don't worry too much about the sound effects. So, I thought that was a good spot for it. So,
right. There you go.
Anyways, yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Jeff. Before we get into the draft, we thought it was a good idea to kind of do our Blitz beverages today. So let's take a look at those. So what'd you break out today, Jeff?
Yeah, I just went out to the beer fridge in the barn and found my last Sierra Nevada Trail Pass IPA.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
Talked about it before on the show. Something let's go look for again. Good stuff.
Excellent. So, I guess it's early enough in the day, and I'm only going to have one beer today. So I just thought it was kind of apropos that I go with if I can find out how to put it in the middle here. Because I got the stupid, I have the mirroring thing off, so it's hard to center these. I'm drinking a Victory Golden Monkey. So.
Nice.
Nobody drinks these when they come over because they're 10% beers. They don't taste real heavy though. Got a great flavor. You're just not going to drink 2 or 3 of these though because they're too strong. So kind of victory, to go along with how the draft went and all that. So I thought that kind of made sense. And it's a good beer, and I probably got 5 or 6 of these out in the fridge, and I can only drink one at a time. So, that was a good day
for you.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Sweet.
So you guys just hang with me on the show today. I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
All right, cheers.
Let's have some fun. Cheers, Jeff. All right, so
that hits the spot.
It does. Yeah, definitely. So I want to, first of all, make sure everybody's seeing this. So I'm going to kind of repost that link for everybody. So, okay. So I thought we kind of take this day by day, Jeff, the draft.
Sure.
Pretty much same as pick by pick, but I'm just going to put this out there. First of all, I'm not going through all the trades. There's a million trades. I didn't have enough time. And somebody's going to write a book about this draft someday, and there's going to be a whole book about all the moves Andrew Berry made. I'm not trying to track all those. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a couple of them, but that's it. So if
you know what we talked leading up to the draft, Rod, that because there was so much equality or similar talent between like 10 and 60 that teams were going to move a lot to get to the spot where they felt like they could get the player that they wanted. And as a whole, it was an incredible amount of activity for all 32 teams. I mean, guys were moving around everywhere to try to get to the right spot to take the player that they wanted. And I think that's just a symptom of the type of pool of talent that it was, that people weren't really sure where guys were going to go.
Yeah, yeah, there was a ton of movement. You and I talked, I think, beforehand. I don't think we really talked about it on the last podcast, but maybe we did. I don't remember if it was that or just in text about when the first trade would happen. Were you surprised that nobody traded before the Browns?
Yeah, a little bit.
I kind of expected it too.
Yeah, the first 5 picks. I mean, obviously, Carnell Tate going to Tennessee, kind of. Even though I think 9 out of 10 mocks that he was gone by the time he got to us, I still was kind of all in on him getting to us. And when he didn't, it just kind of felt like the wind went out of my sails a little bit. That
Yeah,
we weren't going to have a chance to take Carnell Tate, but yeah. Otherwise, I was a little surprised that we were the first trade.
So now that we know what happened in the draft, Carnell Tate were there. Do you think he's a Brown right now?
Boy, I don't know. I like to think so, but I think
That changes the whole complexion. I mean,
it would. Yeah, it
first three picks
would have been a completely different draft for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once he went off the board, I kind of felt like, okay, the way I had projected things to happen in my best case scenario, just it wasn't going to happen. So now we're kind of worst case scenario. Okay, what do we do now? And I think the trade back made a lot of sense for a number of reasons. I don't think you spend the 6th pick in the draft on any of the tackles in this class. I think I've been pretty consistent about my feelings that way.
Not unless you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And then, also from a contract standpoint, you're going to pay whichever guy you take at 9, you're going to pay him about $10 million less over the course of his contract than if you take him at 6. And we still took the first tackle. So I guess it kind of worked out. Maybe they sort of saw the board going this way, and that was kind of the plan all along.
Yeah. So before we just go pick by pick here, well, let's just go through the first 2 picks the first day, and then I'll get back to my thoughts on the first round and some of that stuff. So
sure.
So they trade down with Kansas City. So they get the 9th pick and they get a 3rd and a 5th.
Yep.
Did you feel like that was fair value or just kind of the best they could do? Pretty happy with that trade down?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't move very far. They still got the same guy I think that they would have taken at 6. Like I said, the contract's more favorable now, and you pick up 2 additional assets that they were able to turn around and flip for more things. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it gave Andrew Berry the currency to be able to move around on the board the way he wanted to, and he certainly took advantage of it. So, yeah, I in a perfect world, I would have loved to seen us get some high asset from the 27 draft, but I just don't think that was happening this year. You didn't see that happen with anybody. Teams weren't giving up next year's picks.
No, it would have had to have been the right offer, and you would have been trading down further than 9, and they just may not have been getting the guy they wanted.
Right.
If they did that.
Yeah.
They may have been open to it. Maybe they were open to trading to 10, 12, 14, something like that, but just didn't get the offer. It kind of seems like they got what they wanted. So they take Spencer Fano, first lineman, first tackle. Were you surprised that he was the first lineman, first offensive lineman off the board?
When you look at the talent in the tackle pool in this draft, I think he's easily the safe pick if you're going to pick a guy first, just because of how many different positions he can potentially play. The athleticism. I after the combine, I remember talking about him looking like the way he moved, like he was a much smaller guy. You don't typically see 300-pounders move around that well.
Right.
So yeah, I think as far as taking a lineman at the top of the draft, he was by far the safest pick. I mean, Maui Noah, we talked about the back issues. Most of the other guys had some sort of learning curve that they were going to have to get through, and taking them high, you really don't want to have to delay them playing all that long. So Fano can play somewhere right away. I don't like how they immediately came out and said he's our left tackle. Maybe it's part of the subterfuge of the draft, that you do that so that teams don't think you're taking another tackle later or whatever.
It could be. There's a lot of BS flying around.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So yeah, he'll probably start out at left tackle. Okay. But this is not a guy that you expect to see play left tackle for the next 10 years.
He seems to be pretty happy about it. So, I mean, but he's a confident guy. That's what you want in your player.
Yeah, he's saying all the right things about how he wants to emulate Joe Thomas, and he's looking forward to meeting him and all those kinds of things, right? But I just don't think that that's fair to him, So I was kind of disappointed in that part of it, that we took a guy who really would be an immediate success at right tackle, and now we're going to complicate his period of learning to play at the NFL level. So I think you almost have to do that if you're in the Browns position where we are with the line. Any addition to the line is a good thing. Anybody that we see being here beyond 2027 is a good thing, no matter what position he plays. And I would have to say, if we fast forward to that time period, he's probably going to be playing right tackle at that point in time. So, okay, great. We're going to start him out at left tackle. I'm fine with that. But we know that there's a lot of places that he can move. And because we have all of those openings, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Gives you the flexibility to build your line however you need to.
Yeah, going back to the question about Tate, our comment, our draft would have been weaker if we had gotten Tate. It definitely changes the whole complexion of it.
It would have.
It depends what you do at 24 at that point. If you're, I don't remember who was on the board there as far as offensive linemen without going back and looking. But maybe they go a different direction rather than linemen at that point too. Yeah. Although it's hard to imagine with this draft because they ended up taking 3 linemen.
Caleb Proctor came off the board sooner than I thought he would. Monroe Freeland was a little bit later than I thought he would. The Lions taking Blake Miller was a bit of a surprise to me.
It came very early compared to where he was.
So tackles were coming off the board pretty quick. But Caleb Loma was still there. He went to the Patriots, which is interesting. I mean, you look at the Patriots, and they obviously learned from their mistake last year. They took Will Campbell high, said he's our left tackle, and he got blown up in the Super Bowl. And guess what? They drafted another left tackle. They drafted a real left tackle this time. So, it definitely would have been completely different. I'm not sure how it would have gone in terms of moving around the board. Without that trade down, you wouldn't have had the assets to move around as much as you did.
True.
I'm not sure who Al is, but I don't think Al had much of a role in the draft. So.
AI,
Yeah, I know who that is. I was just joking.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, hard to say. Yeah, okay. Thanks for that comment. Let's talk about. Let's move on to the next pick, and we'll get back and kind of talk about day one in total. But
yeah,
pick 24. I think this Casey Concepcion. I think this was a pick when it came in. People either loved it or they hated it, and I was kind of surprised how many people liked this pick, honestly, when it happened.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of talk about the drops, on social media, on the radio, and everything. I think a lot of people didn't want this guy. A lot of people liked him, though, too. So
yeah.
Definitely kind of a polarizing type of guy. But the Browns took him at 24. He's probably the fourth was he the fourth receiver taken after Mekhi, Lemon, Tyson, and Tate?
Yeah. So Lemon had just gone. Yep.
Gone to the Eagles.
The Eagles traded up for Lemon. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I want to comment on that real quick. A lot of people were disappointed that the Browns didn't make that move and get Lemon.
Trade up for Lemon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see much of a drop off from Lemon to Concepcion. I think they were two pretty similar players.
Yeah.
Physically and how they play football. It's the off the field stuff that concerned me about Lemon. I kind of felt like he was a bit of a prima donna. And if you're going to take a slot guy that high, my preference was Concepcion to Lemon. And I just never thought that we'd come back right away and take another X. I was disappointed in the Concepcion pick because I felt like Boston was the guy we needed. We didn't need an X as much as we needed, or excuse me, a slot as much as we needed an X. So that I was just a little disappointed at that point, thinking, okay, we're just going to settle for taking an X. And then again, they started blowing smoke about, oh, he's going to play wide and all this stuff. Well, let's just let the draft play out.
Yeah. And so, man, I'm right where you were. I wanted Boston, and I think Jeff's kind of, whether he wanted Boston or not, kind of the same thing. I felt like that was the type of receiver that we wanted there, and the drops were a concern. We'll talk about that a little bit more after we get into the Boston pick. But I just
think when you look at our roster, having Isaiah Bond and Malachi Corley already on the roster, Jerry Jeudy's not a big guy. Cedric Tillman has never been available. It just felt to me like the need was for a guy with some size. And with Boston still sitting there, I felt like that was the pick. So end of day one, I'm pretty disappointed. I'm thinking, okay, this is everybody's mock draft from January. Did we learn nothing in the ensuing 3 months?
Right. And I put some comments out on X, and I pretty much got grilled for him because I said kind of the same thing. I said I felt like Andrew Berry kind of forced what happened, that he wanted a lineman and a receiver, and he made it happen. And I liked the trade down. I thought the trade down was great, but I kind of felt like he was going to take these two guys no matter what. That's kind of how I emerged from day one. It's like regardless of who was on the board, at 9 or 24, he was going to take these two guys. And I just that's kind of how I felt after day one.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, who would you have taken? What would you have done? And I'm like, that's not really the point. The point is I felt like he wasn't open enough to doing other things and changing his direction on the draft at that point.
Right.
Okay.
That was day one.
Yeah, and that was day one. Okay.
Day one left us a little bit flat and wanting more.
Right. So then we get into day two, and And when we're looking, because the Browns are picking what, seventh? Is that right? Whatever, seventh or eighth. And a bunch of guys are still there at 39. And we don't need to go through that list, but I didn't think they were going to take Boston. I really didn't. And sure enough, they take Denzel Boston at 39. And I kind of freaked out. I'm like, I was excited. It kind of clarified round one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it all, the first day, I should say, or the first round, whatever. And it also, it kind of, it just made me feel like there was probably more of a plan than what I was seeing. So that one pick kind of changed the whole direction of the draft for me, that Boston pick. And whether it was the best pick or not, we'll debate that later.
Right.
But that one pick kind of turned the draft around for me. And that's not saying that the first two picks weren't good.
Right.
But that kind of solidified, and it made the Concepcion pick fit, because those two guys are just completely opposite receivers.
Mm-hmm.
What one guy does, the other guy doesn't do, and they just fit together very well.
Yeah. Again, when you think about 27 and beyond, these guys are going to be around probably longer than Andrew Berry and Todd Monken are. But they fit the long-term plan. They give you a complementary set of skills to what you already have in Harold Fannin, and lets you build an offense, regardless of who's the quarterback and who's the head coach or the play caller or whatever. These guys fit well together. Yeah, I was surprised from the standpoint that I was under the operating principle that we were going to see a defensive player somewhere in the first three picks. But when that third pick went to another receiver, I immediately said, okay, Andrew Berry wasn't pulling our leg about heavily investing in the offense, right? That, okay, we recognize we recognize that we have almost nothing on offense, and we're going to need to fix that. It just, in the back of my mind, there's this little niggling going, okay, well, where has this been for the last 5 years, right? But
and you mentioned something about a bet on that, but we didn't wager anything on it. So
because I was really thinking that that the Browns were going to cross us up and take more defensive players in a draft that was really deep in those guys. And
your reasoning was sound, Jeff. It really was.
Probably the deepest draft we've seen in years at the edge position, right? We took 10 picks, and we never even entertained one.
Never took an edge.
Yeah, tons of cornerbacks that could help us. A tall cornerback, to help us play Pittsburgh, a slot guy to give Miles Harden a break now and then. Never took one. So, we were all in on fixing the offense this year, and I guess better late than never.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I did a little digging, which everybody has now, on Boston and Concepcion. Everybody's. I found stats on Concepcion's drop rate, so I was looking at drop rates before. I found a different drop rate now, so I don't know what his drop rate was in college, because it depends what stats you see, who computed the stats, but. The last number I saw was 6.7%, which is considerably lower than the first number I saw, which was like 9 something. So I don't know which one's more accurate. But do you know what Denzel Boston's drop rate is, Jeff? At least what I found.
Low. It was pretty low, like 3.5 or something, wasn't it?
Well, when I Googled it, it came up at 1.2%. So
wow.
I can't verify the accuracy of that, but that's what came up.
I know he dropped more balls at the combine than he dropped all season last year. So
well, if that's what drove him down to 39, great.
Good for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the interesting thing is, I don't think either one of these guys ran the 40 at the combine, did they?
I don't think so.
They both look pretty fast.
Yeah, so
fast.
the fast part doesn't really concern me all that much, Rod. What matters, I think, for these two guys is Concepcion has separation ability.
Very much so. Very much so.
And Boston has contested catch ability. Those are the two most important things in my mind to helping your quarterback. And if you can't get a guy that has both, then you get two guys that have one of each. And I think that's what the Browns did.
And I've heard people say that Concepcion is one of the best route runners and also among the best separators. Which is outstanding because if those are both true, then he has the ability to get open, and Boston absolutely has that contested catch ability, which
I think the third leg of that stool is, and it's something that we like about Harold Fannin, is both of those guys are really good with the yak part. They're going to be hard to bring down. So
that's right.
You got three guys on your team now that are going to fight for that extra yard after they catch the ball, which is a great thing. I do want to say, though, that I think the most important statistic, and it's one I texted you yesterday, Rod, so in their final year of college football, Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion had a total of, 20? I think it was 20 or 19, I forget which, touchdowns. It was 20, I think, between the two of them, 20 touchdowns. The Browns' entire offense, all of our wide receivers combined, had 16. It's about putting the football in the end zone.
I think that's the whole team too, Jeff. Because I heard somebody say that the wide receivers had like 4 or something.
Receiving touchdowns.
Touchdowns.
I was just looking at receiving touchdowns. Yeah. So the Browns' entire offense had 16 receiving touchdowns. So that could be backs, tight ends, wide receivers, all thrown together. Okay, had 16. These two guys had 20 last year. So if you're looking to finally put some points on the board, these guys can help you do that.
Right. Well, there's some approximate numbers. KC 4.4, Boston 4.5 to 4.6. So, again, I'm not getting hung up on the 40 time. Just it's just interesting to see what it does. So,
thanks for the stats. I think
appreciate it.
I think you want speed on your team, right? But Isaiah Bond is pretty fast.
We've got some
not
speed.
The be-all end-all.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at
so they got who they wanted. No, I don't believe a word he says, honestly, Anthony.
No, this is silly season. Yeah.
I think it's all subterfuge.
It definitely. Well, that's a good point, and hopefully the points on defense can continue. If the defense plays anything like it's been playing, and the offense, that's kind of been the goal: keep the defense, playing well, and improve the offense. Have the offense catch up and do its share. Then you've got a team that's competing a little more.
And the special teams is, I think, a good point. Both of these guys bring that ability as well to help in the kicking game if you want them to. I think what that does, it risks injury, sure, but it also allows you to structure that room a little bit differently. You don't have to keep a guy just for his kick return ability.
Right. Yeah. So, Jeff, let's move on to the next pick. One of the issues I had on the first day is that the Browns, and not that they had to take either one of these guys, but the Browns passed on the top 2 safeties in this class. Okay, they could have taken a guy that Jeremy's been talking about for months, at 6 or at 9. Who ended up going at 12, and Caleb Downs. They could have taken Dylan Finneman at 24, which is a spot that really nobody expected him to get to.
Right.
I thought it was an easy pick to take him at 24. The Browns went another direction, and I hope it works out great. I'm a huge KC Concepcion fan now because he wears the orange and brown. That's all there is to it.
Right. Yeah.
So the Browns on day 2, they had picks 39, and they had like 70 and 74 after the trade.
At that point,
at that point, they trade around, and they end up not taking either one of those picks, and they end up trading up eventually for Emmanuel McNeil Warren, which is a guy that a lot of people had going in the first round, and the Browns get him at 58.
Right.
So he's probably the third safety on most everybody's board, but he's a top, depending on who you talk to, maybe a top 25 player,
right.
At least top 30 in the draft. He's 6'3.5", 201.
Big guy.
But yeah, big guy.
Hard hitter.
But what
causes
I think
turnovers.
Yes, that might be why the Browns like this guy, because that's something that the Browns don't always get, despite how well the defense plays. They need a turnover guy on this defense, and if it brings any of that to the NFL, man, people love this pick. And I'm not talking Browns fans. I'm talking national people. They're like, oh, my gosh, how did the Browns get him here? This is kind of the pick, I think, that put the Browns over the top as the national pundits saying the Browns get an A+. They got the best draft class, period.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on this pick and, taking him versus the other safeties and anybody else you may have wanted here versus the safety?
Well, it immediately took me back to when the Browns drafted JOK in the second round a few years ago, where he was expected to be a first rounder, and teams weren't really sure what to do with him, and he didn't fit the prototype for some guys, so he eventually slid down into the second round, and the Browns moved up to take him, and it turned out to be a pretty shrewd move. Injury aside, I mean, he was an outstanding player for us. So I think McNeil Warren probably fits into that same kind of category. Because he came from a small school, some teams may have overlooked him because of his size. They might have thought, well, he didn't really fit cookie cutter wise into what they expected from a safety. But you know what? Last year I was all in on Nick Amenwary, and I thought, the league is going to 3 safeties, and you want the guy that can do a lot of things. And I think McNeil Warren fits that sort of a profile. Caleb Downs did too. So did Dylan Thieneman. We were blessed with a draft that was really deep at safety. You could have found nice safeties even beyond 58, and actually well into the 5th round before Jalen Kilgore was selected, right? So I wasn't scared about not getting a safety early. I thought it would have been great. I thought it would have been a good move to take either one of those other 2 guys. But getting McNeil Warren at 58, even though you had to trade up to do it, I think you're right. It sort of put a nice bow on the first 2 rounds to say that, the Browns picked up really 4 first-round talents with their first 4 picks.
Yeah, wild, just wild. So, this is where you really started feeling like they were just killing the draft.
Everything else from this point was a bonus in my mind. Yeah,
and it was kind of interesting because, they traded down those. I guess the 70s. I'm not even going to try to remember all this, but they traded up to get to 58, and then they traded down a couple times, and that ended up. Let's just get down to 86, Jeff, because this was a pick that left a lot of people scratching their head, and it left you jumping for joy. So the Browns take tackle Austin Barber out of Florida at 86, and this is a guy you've talked a lot on the podcast about, but a lot of Browns fans are like, what are they taking him for? It's not a good pick. So explain this pick to people. That's probably just the best thing to happen right now, because people have heard some about it. The Browns wanted to invest in another tackle, and that makes sense. But why is Austin Barber a nice pick here?
Well, let me preface this by saying that this was one of my two favorite moments in the entire draft, was when the Browns took Austin Barber. I literally jumped out of my seat, pumped my fist in the air, and screamed.
Yeah.
They finally took a guy that I like.
Finally.
And they moved up for him, right? They traded 3 picks to get him. Obviously I'm not the only one that sees potential in Austin Barber. I think the Browns organization likes the toolkit. He is not a finished product by any means. I think he has positional versatility, which seems to be the theme carrying the day right now, that the Browns are looking for guys who can contribute in a bunch of ways. He's played right tackle, he's played left tackle. Some speculate he could move inside. I don't really care where he plays. I just like the idea that we put another solid piece on that line that's going to be around long term. If I had to guess today, I would say that probably in the 27 season, Spencer Fano moves to the right, and Austin Barber is playing left tackle for us, and we got a really solid left tackle at a bargain, right?
Austin Barber.
I think he has the size, he has all the measurables and everything. What he is going to lack is the anchor, the base to be able to hold up against Myles Garrett. Guys like Myles Garrett, right? And so how better to learn to do that than to face Myles Garrett in practice?
And nobody holds up against Myles Garrett.
Right.
Let's get real. Right. Everybody needs help against that guy.
Let's look at what we've had at left tackle since Joe Thomas retired. And there's not a perfect solution. Okay.
No, there's not. There's not.
If you can take a guy, this lump of clay that is almost 6'7", moves pretty well for his size. He's a little lean. He can probably get stronger.
He's only 314. Yeah,
but when we had Emory Hunt on a few weeks ago, he talked about any quarterback worth his salt is going to be able to move around behind a guy like that, and protect himself, right? So I loved what he did at the Senior Bowl. I thought he played next to Carmona the almost first half of the Senior Bowl, and those two guys were a wrecking crew in the running game. They were just blowing people off the ball in the running game. So if you can get Austin Barber to come in and help move people and create some running lanes, even if he doesn't become a starter right away, I think it's still a great pick. I'll just say that my other favorite time in the draft, and I sent this to Jeremy, so I'm going to just read it. But it was when the Ravens were taking pick 133, and they were going through their international fans at this point. And so this gal from, I forget, Germany or someplace gets up there and she goes, and the Pittsburgh fans they're all booing because they boo every Ravens pick, right? She gets up there and she goes, Pittsburgh, I'll make this short, like your postseason.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
I just laughed my ass off. I thought that was the best moment of the draft.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
So I got to say, I never had so much fun with the draft. This year was a lot of fun.
Definitely.
In spite of it being in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, despite just complete overload of Pittsburgh Pittsburgh for 3 days. They had so much stuff going on about them. I don't remember that much stuff in Cleveland, but maybe that's because I enjoyed the Cleveland stuff. Anyway, so we move on to day 3. And little did we know at that point, because I don't know what picks the Browns had left, but there's going to be 60 picks before the Browns pick again at that point.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Go all the way down. Yeah, 60 picks. So the Browns' next pick, because they had a 1.5 fifth-round picks, and they moved some of them around. But they end up taking 3 picks in the 5th. The first one at 146, Parker Brailsford, the center for Alabama. Guy a little on the smaller side, but I guess, for a center, it's not that unusual. It's 6'2", 290. I mean, we've had other guys around the size. So
the concern with that, Rod, is he had 16 penalties in his college, or 17 penalties in his college career, and that is a symptom of the size.
Yeah,
so
clean that up.
Yeah, so because he's latching on to people, they're getting past him or knocking him over or whatever, right? So, look, it's worth a swing to go for a center at any point, really, on day 2 or day 3. There were good centers in this draft. They probably like him because of his movement ability. We've played a lot of wide zone here. He can pull. He can do all kinds of things. If you've got good guard play on either side of him that can help him out, and you're creative with how you utilize him as a movement center, he could probably play a significant role. But again, it's kind of a dice roll on day 3 with all these guys. So did I like other centers I thought would be a little bit, more stout, a little better than him? Yeah. I didn't really consider him as a primary option at center. But we'll see what he turns into. It's just nice to add another guy to that center rotation.
Right. I mean, 3 offensive linemen. Have they ever drafted 3 offensive linemen?
It's been a while.
Probably not since there were 17 rounds to the draft.
But like you said, after waiting 60 picks, to take an undersized center with that first one took the air out of my sails a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Well, they come back 3 picks later, and Jeff, this may have been the bargain of the draft. They get wide receiver Justin Jefferson from the Vikings.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Justin Jefferson was eligible to be drafted again.
We can wish. Justin Jefferson, linebacker for Alabama.
Right.
Had kind of a smaller, quick guy. So 6'1",
another theme here, right? Taking undersized guys.
Yeah, but I mean, the Browns seem to do okay with some undersized linebackers, so so we'll see. I mean, special teams guy, if nothing else, potentially. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think this is another indication that JOK's career is probably over. That they took a guy who's really his specialty is going to be passing downs. As a will linebacker on passing downs where he's going to be in coverage primarily. Maybe they'll use him some other ways, in terms of hybrid positioning. But he's not a guy who's going to threaten the line of scrimmage for sure.
Yeah. And then let's see, the Browns in another. This was part of one of the trade downs.
I by the way, thought that was the only reach of the whole draft.
Justin
Jefferson at 149.
Okay. And then pick 170, still in the 5th round. The Browns take the obligatory UC player, Joe Royer, tight end, 6'5", 250.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can be that missing piece.
they kind of killed two birds with one stone here because, you know, they have to take a UC player and they have to take a Buckeye every year. And Joe Warrior was both.
They got both. Yeah, you're right.
So that saved us another pick right there. Yeah. I mean, Royer, I liked Royer. He didn't get to play a lot in Columbus. I think as a pass catching tight end who can play in line, he's probably a good complement to Fannin. He's got a ways to go in blocking, so I don't know that he's necessarily going to be, you know, a 3-down guy, but as part of a rotation, I think he can help.
Yeah, more to come on tight end.
By the way, is 24 years old, which, you know, I've been told for quite some time now that the Browns don't draft guys that old.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the ages because everybody up until now has been, you know, 20, 21, 22. So
other than Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston was a little bit beyond the guardrails also at 23. Yeah.
Denzel Boston's 22? Okay, I had him down as 22. So, okay. And then we go top of the 6th round, 182, and I'm hoping and praying the Browns will take a QB, and they take Taylon Green. And
this is when you jumped off the couch.
I was excited. I wanted the Browns to take a developmental quarterback. Okay, and people can get mad and say, you know, this is Shador's team and everything. Taylon Green's not starting a quarterback this year. Okay, that's not why they
probably.
Yeah, that's not why they took this guy. Okay,
right.
He's an exciting guy that, you know, is just raw and bursting with talent. I mean, he runs a 4.37. He's 6'6", 224, huge guy. And man, just watch this guy run. He's like, you know, his stride is so long. It doesn't even look like
Usain Bolt-ish.
Yeah. Did you see him run the 40?
Yeah.
He ran the 40 in like 12 steps.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you're looking at him, it looks like he doesn't even get up to speed, and he's done, and he ran a 4.37. I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like
it's effortless.
He's only up to jogging speed, it looks like, and he runs a 4.37 because his stride is so huge.
Yeah, absolute combine darling. I mean, highest RAS score at the maybe second highest RAS score at the combine because Sadiq, I think, was a perfect 10, but he was a 9.99. Easy to fall in love with the measurables, the physique, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And as a developmental quarterback, you've got the right head coach. If Todd Monken can figure out how to get anything like Lamar Jackson out of Taylon Green, this will be a home run for the Browns. I put pressure on Dylan Gabriel. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of pressure. I think Dylan Gabriel's probably already got a foot and a half out the door.
He should probably get his bags packed.
I don't think he should sign any long-term leases here in Cleveland.
This is the interesting piece, though. Toolman, I'm saying he'd be an amazing deep pass wide receiver, deep threat. I've heard people say tight end, different things. You got the Terrell Pryor stuff going on. This guy's such a great athlete. Should he change positions right away? Well,
right.
Does he want to?
Let's give him a chance to be a quarterback.
Yeah. Let's see what he can do. I mean,
I could definitely see a package of plays for him this season where he could utilize those kind of skills. You know, not just designed runs. I mean, I'm talking like spread him wide and direct snap it to Judkins and let Judkins throw the ball to him in the end zone. You know, those kinds of things, right?
Right. So a lot of stuff.
I think it could be a lot of fun. I think he could be your short yardage guy with the tush push kind of a play. Absolutely. It could be fun to see where they can roll him into the offense this year. But in terms of him being a viable QB1, that's at least a year or two away.
I agree. But he should be a guy that they work with and should be around for several seasons, and they should be trying to figure out, how they can use this guy with all that.
Definitely a guy, and this, when we talked about last year about, them doubling up on quarterbacks, and the goal was to come away with a long-term backup. Taylor Green is a guy that you can invest in long-term.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
You can always see an upside with a guy like him.
Right.
Versus Dylan Gabriel, who, after 2 games, we knew what he was. There's just no more upside there, right? And you can figure out, okay, this is how I can use him as a backup, right? But you're just not investing in him long term.
Yeah, I agree.
And Shedeur is going to be boom or bust. He's either going to be your guy or he's not. Where Taylor Green can be a long-term backup and provide some value just because of all those other things that he can do.
Yeah, I agree. So the Browns then go another 60 picks to pick 248 in the 7th round, and just to kind of mock Jeff a little bit, they take a second tight end because Jeff says, "I want a tight end." They're like, "We'll give him 2. What the heck?"
I've been asking for tight ends for years now, and they're trying to make it all up in one draft.
Yeah, so they take Carson Ryan out of BYU, kind of similar size to Joe Royer, receiving, had some receptions at BYU last year. So, I mean, what's the difference between him and Royer, Jeff?
Well, I wouldn't comp him to Royer. I'd comp him to Jack Stoll.
More of a blocking guy.
I think you already had this guy on the roster, which is kind of why it was a real head scratcher for me. I thought, okay, we think we're going to run a lot of maybe 2 and 3 tight end sets this year. But we already had like 7 of them on the roster at this point. So, going and getting another tight end in the draft, and then for it to be Carson Ryan, I immediately said, who? I mean, I don't think if anybody tells you that Carson Ryan was on their mock draft radar anywhere, they're bullshitting you.
Right.
Because I don't think anybody has heard of this kid. And, well, good luck to him. Okay. I mean, as a quasi Mr. Irrelevant, he's literally got to beat 6 guys to make
going to be a challenge.
5 guys to make this football team.
Ton of tight ends on the roster now. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, look, Caden Priestcorn, Sal Cannella, Brendan Bates, Blake Whiteheart, Jack Stoll, Carson Ryan, Joe Royer, and Harold Fanning. Okay, 8 tight ends on the roster right now.
Yeah, pretty much two of them are guaranteed. Probably 3 of them are guaranteed a spot, maybe.
And he and Jack Stoll are, to be fair, probably going to be the most effective inline blockers. So they're probably battling for one position.
Yeah,
those 2 guys.
Yeah,
I mean, Stoll's got no guaranteed money, so as long as this kid doesn't fall on his face, he can probably make it as your 3rd tight end.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I think we'll maybe save the UDFAs and talk about those on our next show.
My God, there's like 15 of them.
Yeah.
We're gonna need an hour just for them.
Yeah, we'll talk about those on the next show. I think we've kind of gone over this, so I think we'll kind of wrap up here. Is there you got any closing words? Any wrap up on this?
Well, I want to start out by saying the missed opportunities again. There were some spots that were not a huge need, but I thought it would have been a great opportunity for us to improve the roster, and that's edge depth, a big cornerback, a slot cornerback. I thought we could have done better at guard/center. But the big thing for me, really, in terms of and that would be just as sort of injury insurance, right? We passed on a lot of great edges. Let's just keep our fingers and toes crossed that everybody in that room stays healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we could have had a nice depth piece, and we don't. Yeah. But for me, really, the takeaway was Mike Ruttenberg's got to be sitting there going, "Where are my toys?"
Right.
He's got he's got Emmanuel McNeil Warren to figure out how to game plan, and that's going to be fun. But yeah, he's probably wondering why he didn't get a little bit more to mess around with. So I mean that's really my only takeaway negatively from this draft. It was a great draft. Don't get me wrong.
100%.
6 trades. Andrew Berry maximized value on everything. You can't squeeze any more blood out of that. I mean he maximized every single possible value. He added 2 4th-round picks in 27 for a total of 10 picks next year. We ended up taking 10 guys this year, 8 on offense, 2 on defense. I mean, we've been saying for years, how do you put that many rookies on a team, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but they're going to do it.
We put 7 on the team last year, 10 on this, 9 or 10 on the team this year, 9 or 10 next year. My gosh, by the end of next year, you're going to be a very, very young football team.
That's right.
Assuming we don't use a lot of those assets to trade up, right? But we come away from this draft with really 4 first-round graded players. That by itself makes it a successful draft.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, all these guys need to do is go out and just do what we think they can do. And you've now got a tremendous foundation in terms of young players that are very talented. We've got eight players now that we feel like we can build this team around going into the new stadium. They addressed the biggest needs on offense. They got a nice complementary piece on defense. I mean, but I just think the overall strategy that Andrew Berry has deployed in the last 2 drafts, and we saw it really with quarterback last year, and I think he has now carried it forward this year, where he's now taken 2 offensive tackles, 2 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. He is doubling down on positions,
and that's smart.
Which when you're in this spot with a roster and you've got this many picks, it's a really smart strategy, I think. Take complementary players at different points in the draft that can give you at least some sort of contributions, if not right away, within the first year or 2, right? So kudos to him for adjusting his draft strategy on the fly last year and seeing it through again this year. I think he did a really nice job of giving us skill position players with the high picks that we can build this team on, going forward. So it should be fun to watch these guys play this year.
Absolutely. All right. This has been the Browns Blitz. We thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.